We are now in the last anchor, the anchor violet, communication. Why do we have to communicate? We have to communicate because our life is a life of unity. We cannot realize communion in and among us if we do not communicate our souls, if we do not communicate our activities, if we do not communicate properly the things that we are undergoing in life. That is why in our communication, they are classified as our communion of soul, that is something personal. And in that communion of soul, there's something that we can only tell to our responsible or responsibles, and there are also things that we can say or we can share to everyone for public consumption. Second, we also share our activities as a community, our activities as individuals, our ministries, our encounters, our realizations, and our plans. And therefore, in the color violet, it is very important that we have to practice it so that it becomes a way of life. Because it does not happen overnight. The violet does not happen overnight. The life of the violet, the life of communication, does not happen overnight. That is why it is very important that we consciously practice it time and again. Because in practicing it, we will always be able to anticipate our communication with one another now and in the future. We do not communicate when we do something at the moment. Before we do something, we have to see things first in unity. We are not supposed to tie up the hands of our responsibles or anyone else, because every decision that we make should always consider the entire community. For example, as I told Paul when he got a car, I said, make sure that you consider the well-being of our community, in the sense that if somebody else is taking over your place, do you think he can drive your car? So I was considering that. And therefore, it is very important to communicate. It's very important to ask. It's very important to see things in unity. It's very important to coordinate. It's very important to say things even beforehand, so that we can somehow see the possibilities of accomplishing it or not accomplishing it, doing it or not doing it. Because when we decide, we always see in context for the good of the community and for the good of the individuals. There has been cases when, because of lack of communication or miscommunication, there had been really instances that there were misunderstanding. That is the product, misunderstanding. There's misunderstanding, and even more deeply, there is a crack of unity. There is a broken reality of unity. And when there is a broken reality of unity, then it is very difficult. But if we can avoid it for the sake of unity, why can't we not do that? It's just a question of really communicating and putting things, in the hands of God or in the hands of our community. That is why let us avoid being dubious. Something is happening in us and yet we are not sharing it, no? Well, I respect that, my dear brothers, my dear brethren, my dear sisters. If we do not want to share something that is happening in us, then it means that you have to be okay. But even then, after having been okay, then because it is now the moment for you to see how the Lord has risen in your experience, then you are not also excused to share your life to the community or to your responsible. So that because our life is a life of unity, there's no other way than to communicate. So there have been really instances when decisions were destroyed because of not only miscommunication but lack of communication. There have been instances when perceptions about anything, about something, or about someone have been destroyed because of of communication and miscommunication. We don't want to be destroyed. In fact, it has been very, very important to communicate. And through communication, I also saw that we solved a lot of problems, we solved a lot of concerns, we solved a lot of crisis in our lives. But again, this is a communication that asks us to be sincere, to be sincere, not to put icing in our experience, but really to be sincere to share what we are undergoing or what God wants us to undergo. So Violet, so we can use many means. We write, we text, we email, we use the recording. If we are not good in as I do, I'm not very good really in writing. Then I try to do it through recording. There are ways and means, and it is not an excuse. No one is excuse. No one is excuse to communicate because we have many means nowadays. Our life, because it is a life of unity, through our communication, lead us or help us realize the greatest love even at a distance. Because the greatest love can be lived even at a distance when we communicate one another. We are not guessing whether we are one or not. We are not guessing whether we are living for the greatest love. We have to assure it. We have to say it because, when we have to say it, we have to assure it, then we are in that boat, we are in that spirit that together we are living for that greatest love. And so with this, we will increase more and more this life of communion among us. And please take note, if at one point in time you have not communicated and you feel like being misunderstood, then I think we have to examine ourselves whether or not someone else has committed the fault or we have committed the fault or I have committed the fault. So this is the Anchor Violet. This is the last one, but I will also give some more follow-ups on the different colors in my sharing updates and formation notes.